The last cup of coffee I'd ever drink in our startup's office had gone cold. I stared at it, sitting on my desk like a final punctuation mark, while watching David pace our once shared workspace through the glass walls. He was on the phone with our investors again, probably spinning the same story he'd been crafting for weeks. How I was unstable. How my erratic behavior threatened the company. How he had no choice but to take control for the good of everyone involved. I almost admired his dedication to the lie. Almost. My name is Sophia Martinez, and for the past 3 years, I poured every ounce of my being into building SecureNet, a revolutionary cybersecurity system that could adapt to threats in real time. The idea had come to me during a brutal cyber attack at my previous job, watching helplessly as traditional security measures failed one by one. David had been my friend then. We'd met at a tech conference where he'd been immediately fascinated by my concept. He had the connections, the MBA, the polished pitch deck presence. I had the vision and the coding skills to make it real. It seemed perfect. "We'll change the world," he'd said over beers the night we signed our partnership agreement. 50-50. Partners all the way. I should have known better. Should have seen the signs. The way he slowly took control of all investor meetings. The way my name started appearing smaller and smaller in presentations. The way he began referring to himself as the founder in interviews, relegating me to head of development. But I was too busy building, too focused on perfecting the system that would revolutionize cybersecurity, too trusting, until this morning. "The board has concerns," he'd announced, walking into my office like he owned it. Which technically, as of last night's emergency board meeting, he did. "Your recent behavior, the missed meetings, the secretive coding sessions." "You mean the core system development? The actual product we're supposed to be launching?" He waved dismissively. "The point is, changes need to be made. The board has voted to restructure the company leadership. You're being removed as CTO, effective immediately." I sat there, letting his words wash over me. The board, 3 of his friends from business school who'd invested early. The restructure, his final move to push me out completely. "And my shares?" I asked quietly. He smiled, that same charming smile that had once convinced me to trust him. "We'll buy you out. 10 cents on the dollar. Generous, considering the circumstances." "The circumstances you manufactured." His smile tightened. "Be reasonable, Sophia. You're a coder. A good one, sure, but this company needs real leadership, professional management. You're not equipped for that." I stood, gathering my laptop. "And you are. I've raised $12 million in funding. I got us coverage in every major tech blog. I've built relationships with Fortune 500 clients. What have you done? Hidden in your office writing code that nobody understands." That's when I knew for certain I'd made the right choice 3 months ago, when the first red flags had appeared, when I'd first noticed files being copied, meetings being held without me. I'd prepared. "You're right," I said, picking up my coffee cup. "Nobody understands my code, including you." He frowned. "We have other developers. They'll figure it out." "Will they?" I smiled, dropping my key card on the desk. "Good luck with the launch next week. I'm sure it'll be interesting." His face darkened. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing at all. Just wondering if you've ever actually read any of my code. If you understand what the term master architecture means." He stepped closer, trying to intimidate. "Are you threatening me?" "Not at all. Like you said, I'm just a coder. What damage could I possibly do?" I walked out of the office for the last time, past the logo I'd designed, past the whiteboards filled with my handwriting, past 3 years of dreams and dedication. Behind me, I heard David barking orders. Change all the passwords. Lock her out of everything. And somebody get me a complete system backup. I smiled. They wouldn't find what they were looking for. Not in time. In my car, I pulled out my phone and sent one encrypted message. It's time. The response came immediately. Systems ready. Awaiting your command. For 3 months, I'd been preparing for this moment. Ever since I discovered David's plans, I'd been building something in secret. A parallel system, hidden within SecureNet's architecture. To the casual observer, even to skilled developers, it looked like standard security protocols. But it was so much more. I drove home to my apartment, but not to the main living space. Instead, I went to the secret office I'd built in what was supposedly a storage unit next door. 3 monitors sprang to life, showing me everything happening on SecureNet servers. They were already trying to lock me out, changing passwords, revoking access. Watching their frantic activity was like watching ants scurrying before a storm. They had no idea what was coming. My phone buzzed, a message from Anna, one of the junior developers I'd mentored. Sophia, what's happening? David's going crazy, demanding we audit all your code before the launch. Good luck with that, I typed back. How many lines of code are there now? Over 2 million. It would take weeks to review it all thoroughly. And the launch is in 6 days. She sent back a worried emoji. Are we in trouble? Not you, I'd assured her. Make sure you document everything David asks you to do. Trust me. I turned back to my monitors, watching as David brought in an outside security team. They were good. I could see them methodically working through the system architecture, looking for backdoors or time bombs. They wouldn't find any, because what I'd built wasn't about destruction. It was about creation. The real SecureNet, the one I'd been building in secret, wasn't just a security system. It was a self-evolving AI that learned from every attack, every threat, every attempt to breach it. The version David had, a sophisticated shell, functional enough to demo, but missing the core intelligence that made it revolutionary. He thought he was stealing my company. In reality, he'd stolen an empty vessel. That evening, my private phone, the one David didn't know about, rang. It was Jerome Washington, CEO of Global Guard, the largest cybersecurity firm in the country. Is it true? He asked without preamble. Did they really push you out? News travels fast. In this industry, like lightning, especially when someone's about to make a catastrophic mistake. He paused. That system of yours, the real one, is it ready? I smiled in the darkness of my secret office. Why do you ask? Because I've seen the demos, the real ones, not the sanitized version your partner's been shopping around. And I know that what you built is worth 10 times whatever they're planning to launch. Interesting timing. Sophia. His voice turned serious. They're going to fail. Spectacularly. And when they do, there's going to be a very small window of opportunity. The question is, are you ready to walk through it? I looked at my screens, at the real SecureNet, humming quietly in its secret servers, learning, growing, evolving beyond anything David could imagine. I've been ready for 3 months. Good, because when this all falls apart, I want to be your first call. I hung up and leaned back in my chair, watching David's team continue their frantic preparation for the launch. They were working through the night, trying to understand a system that was designed to be misunderstood. My phone buzzed again, another message from Anna. David's telling everyone you had a mental breakdown, that you were paranoid about the company being stolen from you. He's making you sound crazy. I thought about the real code, safely hidden away, about the AI that was even now growing stronger, learning from every probe and test they ran on its empty shell. Let him talk, I replied. Actions speak louder than words. And next week is going to be very, very loud. I closed my laptop and walked to my window. Nervous. Something feels wrong with the system, but nobody can figure out what. It's like trying to catch smoke. Everything looks right, but nothing quite works the way it should. Of course it didn't. They were working with a shadow of the real system, a sophisticated replica that would function perfectly in demos, but fall apart under real-world conditions. And those conditions were about to hit hard. At noon, my private phone rang. Jerome Washington from Global Guard again. We're in position, he said without preamble. My team has reviewed your private documentation. The real system. It's beyond anything we imagined. That was the point, I replied, watching David on my screen as he rehearsed his presentation one last time. Nobody imagined it because they were too busy looking for conventional solutions. How long before they realize? I checked the time. About 3 hours. The launch starts at 2 p.m. By 2:30, their system will face its first real test. And then we'll see who really built SecureNet. At 1 p.m., I received another message from Anna. David's getting aggressive. He keeps demanding we run more security checks, but nothing's showing up as wrong. He knows something's off, but can't prove it. I smiled, remembering all the nights I'd spent crafting this moment. The real SecureNet wasn't just hiding. It was actively masking its absence, using AI to present a perfect facade until the moment of truth. At 1:45, I changed into a sharp black suit and headed to the Metropolitan Tech Center. Not to the main hall where the launch was happening, but to a private room I'd reserved on the floor above. From there, I could watch everything unfold on multiple screens while maintaining complete deniability. The launch began precisely at 2 p.m. David took the stage to thunderous applause, every inch the successful tech CEO in his expensive suit and practiced smile. Ladies and gentlemen, he began, today we revolutionize cybersecurity forever. SecureNet isn't just another protection system, it's the future of digital defense. I watched as he launched into his presentation, showing carefully curated demos of the system's basic functions. The audience was impressed. These features worked perfectly because they were real. I'd built them as the foundation of the true system. Then came the moment I'd been waiting for. And now, David announced proudly, we'll demonstrate SecureNet's revolutionary adaptive response capabilities with a live test. We've invited some of the world's top white hat hackers to attempt to breach a test server protected by our system. My phone buzzed. Jerome? Ready? Watch, I texted back. The first few minutes of the test went smoothly. The basic security protocols handled simple attack attempts exactly as designed. David was beaming, his confidence growing with each successful defense. Then, at exactly 2:27 p.m., everything changed. The test hackers, following the script I'd secretly provided to Jerome, launched a sophisticated multi-vector attack. The kind of attack the real SecureNet would have adapted to instantly. The kind that would expose the hollow shell they were actually running. At first, the system appeared to respond correctly. Then, like a house of cards in a gentle breeze, it began to collapse. Warning messages flooded the main display. Security protocols failed in cascading sequences. The beautiful interface David had been so proud of flickered and died. Minor technical difficulty, he announced, his voice tight. We'll have this resolved in a moment. But it wasn't minor, and it wouldn't be resolved. Because what was happening wasn't a system failure. It was the system performing exactly as I'd designed it to perform when someone tried to run it without the true core architecture. Anna's message popped up. Sophia, everything's crashing. Not just the demo system, everything. David's going crazy. I watched through my monitors as David's polished facade cracked. He was barking orders into his phone, demanding the development team fix something they didn't understand. Then came the whispers. I could see them spreading through the audience as tech-savvy observers realized what they were witnessing. This wasn't just a failed demo. This was a fundamental architectural collapse. At 2:45, David's phone rang. I knew who it would be, the first of their major clients demanding answers. Because the system failure hadn't just affected the demo. Every test instance they distributed to potential clients was showing the same behavior. Where's Sophia? I heard him demand into his phone. Find her. She has to have done something to the code. But I hadn't done anything to their code. I'd simply let them have exactly what they thought they'd stolen. A sophisticated replica that would work perfectly until the moment it needed to be truly intelligent. At 3 p.m., as David struggled to maintain control of the increasingly restless audience, I sent one message to Jerome. Ready for Phase 2. He replied instantly. Broadcasting now. Suddenly, every screen in the auditorium switched to a new display. Not the SecureNet logo, but a live demonstration of the real system, the one I'd been developing in secret, the one that was, at that very moment, effortlessly defending against attacks that had crashed David's version. The audience fell silent, watching in awe as the true SecureNet adapted and evolved in real time, showcasing capabilities that made David's presentation look like a child's toy. Ladies and gentlemen, Jerome's voice boomed through the speakers. I'm Jerome Washington, CEO of Global Guard. What you're witnessing is the actual SecureNet system, developed by its true creator, Sophia Martinez. David spun around, staring at the screens in horror as Jerome continued. While others focused on taking credit, Ms. Martinez focused on innovation. The result is what you see before you, not just a security system, but a true AI-driven adaptive defense platform. I stood and walked to the railing of my private balcony, finally letting myself be seen. The audience followed Jerome's gaze upward, and for the first time since this began, I locked eyes with David. He looked small suddenly, standing in the ruins of his stolen success. The system you tried to launch today, I called down, my voice carrying clearly through the hushed room, was never more than a shadow. A convincing replica, yes, but ultimately empty, because the real SecureNet was never about the code you thought you'd stolen. It was about the architecture only I fully understood. You sabotaged us, he sputtered. No, David. I let you sabotage yourself. Everything that happened today was the natural result of trying to launch a system you didn't understand and couldn't control. Jerome took the stage, smoothly taking control of the presentation. Global Guard is proud to announce our exclusive partnership with Ms. Martinez and the true SecureNet technology. We invite all interested parties to join us in the main conference room for a demonstration of what real innovation looks like. As the audience filed out, following Jerome's team, I watched David standing alone on stage, surrounded by screens showing the failure of his attempted theft. My phone buzzed one final time. Anna, the team just got the announcement. Global Guard is offering us all positions with the real SecureNet division. Is this really happening? It's happening, I replied. Hope you're ready to build something revolutionary. This time without hiding. I turned to leave, but David's voice stopped me. You planned this, he called out. All of it. You let me think I'd won. I looked back at him, feeling nothing but a distant pity. You wanted to steal a company, David. I wanted to build something that mattered. We both got exactly what we deserved. As I walked out, I could hear the excitement from the conference room where Jerome was showing what the real SecureNet could do. The system I'd spent 3 years building was finally being seen for what it truly was. Not just a security platform, but a new paradigm in digital defense. And David? He was about to learn that in the tech world, true innovation can't be stolen. It can only be built. One line of code at a time. 6 months after what tech blogs now called the SecureNet revelation, I stood in Global Guard's new innovation center, watching real-time displays of our system protecting networks across the globe. The numbers were staggering. Over 5,000 clients, including 80% of the Fortune 500, with a security success rate that made traditional systems look prehistoric. Another attack prevented. Maya, my new chief of operations, announced. The system adapted to the threat pattern before it even fully formed. The NSA wants to know how we knew it was coming. We didn't. I smiled, watching the AI's neural pathways reorganize on my screen. The system did. That's the beauty of true adaptive architecture. I picked up the latest copy of Tech Innovator magazine. The cover story read, SecureNet, the AI security revolution that changed everything. Inside was a smaller article. Former tech CEO David Parker faces federal investigation over intellectual property theft. Speaking of David, Maya continued, his lawyers reached out again. They're floating another settlement offer. I set down the magazine. Same answer as always. I'm not interested in settlements. I'm interested in truth. The truth had come out spectacularly in the weeks following the failed launch. David's carefully crafted image had crumbled as investors and board members turned on him, revealing a pattern of deception that went far beyond just pushing me out. He'd been cooking the books, making promises he couldn't keep, all while trying to steal something he didn't understand. But that wasn't my concern anymore. My focus was on building something bigger than revenge. The Innovation Academy applications are ready for review, Maya said, pulling up a new screen. Over 2,000 candidates for the first class. The Academy had been my idea. A program to identify and support overlooked tech innovators, particularly those who'd been pushed aside or underestimated. We committed $100 million to fund their projects and provide mentorship. Start with this one. I pointed to a familiar name, Anna Thompson. My former colleague had stayed at the old SecureNet through the collapse, documenting everything. Her testimony had been crucial in the federal investigation, and her own innovations, once suppressed under David's leadership, were remarkable. Already flagged her, Maya grinned. Along with that entire team of developers you mentioned. The ones who saw but couldn't speak, I finished. Exactly the kind of talent we want to nurture. My phone buzzed. Jerome Washington, now my co-chair on the Global Guard board. You're going to want to see this. Turn on CNBC. I clicked on the wall screen just in time to see the breaking news. Tech fraud investigation expands. Multiple executives implicated in systematic theft of innovation. It wasn't just about David anymore. The investigation had uncovered a network of tech leaders who'd made a practice of pushing out innovators and stealing their work. The industry was facing a reckoning. Perfect timing, Maya said, pulling up another document. The Patent Protection Initiative is ready to launch. This was the project I was most proud of. A legal and technical framework to protect individual innovators from corporate theft. We developed it in partnership with leading tech law firms, creating a blockchain-based system for securing intellectual property rights. Schedule the announcement for next week, I decided, and make sure every tech incubator in the country gets an invitation. That evening, I had dinner with Jerome in my new office, no longer hidden, but occupying the top floor of Global Guard's headquarters with a view of the city I was helping protect. "Remember when we first discussed this partnership?" he asked, pouring wine. "You were working from that secret office, watching David dig his own grave. Seems like a lifetime ago. You could have destroyed him more completely, you know. The evidence you had, the recordings." I shook my head. Destruction was never the goal. Building something better was. Speaking of building, he slid a tablet across the table. The acquisition offers are getting serious. Microsoft just doubled their bid. I didn't even look at the numbers. Not interested. I knew you'd say that. He smiled. Which is exactly why I wanted you as a partner. This was never about money for you. It's about making sure no other innovator has to work in shadows, I said, walking to the window. About creating spaces where good ideas can grow without fear of theft. My phone buzzed. A message from Anna. "Just saw the Academy announcement. Is this really happening?" "It's happening," I replied. "Time to build in the light." The next morning, I called an all-hands meeting. Our atrium was packed, hundreds of employees in person, thousands more joining virtually from our offices worldwide. 1 year ago, I began. I was working in secret, watching something I'd built being stolen. Today, we're not just building security systems. We're creating a future where innovation is protected, where good ideas can't be stolen, where talent rises on merit rather than manipulation. I gestured to the screens showing our global impact. Networks protected, attacks prevented, innovation secured. Starting today, every employee owns part of this mission. Stock options for everyone, from senior developers to support staff. Because real innovation comes from everywhere, and everyone deserves to benefit from what they help build. The announcement was met with thunderous applause. As I watched my team celebrate, I thought about the woman I'd been 6 months ago, working alone in that hidden office. That evening, as I prepared to leave, Maya brought me one final piece of news. David's company filed for bankruptcy. Their remaining clients all migrated to our platform. I thought about him, probably sitting in some lawyer's office, still trying to figure out how it all went wrong. Still not understanding that true innovation can't be stolen. It has to be nurtured, protected, allowed to grow. My phone buzzed. A message from one of our Academy applicants. "Your story inspired me to keep building even when no one believed in my ideas. Thank you for showing us it's possible." I smiled, remembering exactly how that felt. Then I opened my laptop and began reviewing applications, ready to give other overlooked innovators the chance to build something extraordinary. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying what others tried to steal. It's about building something so magnificent that theft becomes impossible. About creating a future where innovation is protected and talent can thrive in the open. The next morning, I approved funding for 20 new projects through the Academy. As I signed the documents, I thought about David and all the others who thought they could steal success rather than earn it. But I wasn't building for them anymore. I was building for every person who'd ever been told their ideas were too ambitious, their dreams too big, their innovations too disruptive. And we were just getting started. Because success isn't just about proving thieves wrong. It's about proving innovators right. Again and again and again. Until the only voice that matters is the one that says, build something extraordinary. And so we did. And so we would. One innovation at a time. The following week, I stood on stage at MIT's technology conference, announcing the Patent Protection Initiative. Looking out at the sea of young faces, I saw the future, not just of technology, but of protected innovation. Build, I told them. Build without fear. Build without hiding. Build knowing that your ideas are yours to develop, your innovations yours to grow. In the front row, I spotted Anna with her team, already working on projects that would have been impossible under David's leadership. Behind her sat developers from 20 different companies, all ready to be part of something bigger than individual success. After the announcement, a young programmer approached me, clutching a laptop. Ms. Martinez, I have an idea. Everyone says it's impossible, but tell me, I said, leading her to a quiet corner. Because that's what real innovation looks like. Not stolen success, but earned triumph. Not hidden genius, but protected brilliance. One idea at a time, until the light of innovation shines so bright that shadows have nowhere to hide. And that's a revenge sweeter than any destruction could ever be.